You've got to love what Auburn's doing in the portal.
You are Locked On Auburn, your daily podcast on the Auburn Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, welcome on into Locked On Auburn, your daily Auburn Tigers podcast. I'm your host, Zac Blackerby, and thank you so much for making Locked On Auburn your first listen every single day. Joining me as it does every single Monday, it is the Lindsay Crosby. You can find his Auburn stuff over at thebarnauburn.com. We'll talk about, what should Auburn fans want for Christmas from this football team or this basketball team, as well as who could be next or what position could be next for Auburn in the transfer portal. Because so far, Lindsay, and this is where we start our show today, including what they did over the weekend and what they did Friday, like this Auburn team continues to load up via the portal without really losing a whole lot of stuff. Folks that were going to impact the 2025 season. Preston Howard was a big topic of Friday's show. The former Maryland tight end. He's now an Auburn Tiger. I love what this guy brings to the table. I think he's versatile. I think he can be dynamic. I think he fills a need where Auburn is losing a ton of snaps when you talk about Rivaldo Fairweather and Luke Deal. To me, I like the addition of Preston Howard. I like it a bunch.
Yeah, you needed more bodies, but you needed guys who were capable of being playmakers. And the way that they used him at Maryland, he was in there for more passing snaps than running snaps. They almost never kept him in the block. They did sometimes, and he was fine at that, 35 snaps. But for the most part, he's going out and he's running routes and he's catching passes. And we didn't have anybody in the tight end room who was a shoo-in to get those receptions, those targets that Rivaldo Fairweather had. And I don't think Preston Howard's automatically a shoo-in for that large of a role, but he's a guy who can do it. And I think that's more than you could say for anybody else in the room. So that definitely helps your offense be a little more dynamic next year.
Yeah, so, Brandon Frazier, I guess, is the favorite as far as to probably get the most snaps in the tight end room. Right now, Preston
he is
Howard,
37 years old. He's got tons of experience.
Sure. And, when he's been throwing the football, it's worked. It just hasn't been a ton. But, yeah, you love that. And then Rico Walker, who also is a former Maryland tight end, can he take that step forward? And then I really like Ryan G. I really like Hollis Davidson, the incoming true freshman. So I like all the individuals in the room. We just got to see how they're used because there's not a Rivaldo Fairweather on this roster right now. Somebody would have to take a major step forward for us to have somebody who is as athletic and dynamic as Rivaldo Fairweather. So I'm curious to see, do they even try to go that route, or do they put more wide receivers on the field next year? That's probably what my guess is.
Yeah, if right now where we sit, if I had to say, what do I want to do? I'd say get these wide receivers out there, right? But I think having the option makes it better because you can mix and match what you do, and being able to have a guy who can go out there, he can line up in the slot, he can be in line. He did both of those at Maryland last year. He can block, he can catch. It does give you the ability. I feel like at times under Hugh, we've seen a little bit of not fully telegraphing it, but you had an idea what they were going to do based off of personnel, and being able to keep somebody out there and not have him as a liability when you do the other thing is great. Because Brandon Frazier, great dude. When he was in the game, you were probably running the ball. Luke Deal, same situation. He was out catching passes a little more, but he wasn't really that much of a threat. And I feel like Preston Howard can be a threat at both and just helps you disguise a little bit better and be a little more not obvious with your packages, your personnel packages. And I think that's something that at times you could nitpick that a little bit for Auburn's offense.
Yeah. I don't think that's nitpicking. I think if your personnel dictates what you're going to do, kind of defeats the purpose of the whole, tendencies and RPO. You want to keep the defense. But I say it all the time. You want to make them defend every blade of grass. And if you're limited by, doing certain things when guys that you're playing a lot, if you don't trust them to run a pattern or to be a threat in the passing game, what's the point? So I like the addition of Preston Howard a ton. Auburn also added, since we last recorded a show, a kicker, Connor Gibbs from Southern Miss. And to me, this is a little fascinating, not in the sense that Auburn doesn't need a kicker, because I agree with this move. I do wish he was older, but beggars can't be choosers. It's just now you've got 3 kickers that are all kind of the same age. And I don't know, maybe that tells me that they're okay with losing, what they currently had. I don't know. You can read between the lines there as much as you want. But all the reports were like, yeah, we're not interested in adding a kicker. And then they do add one. And once again, we always say like, actions speak louder than words. Like, yeah, maybe they are concerned about Towns Magoo. Maybe they are concerned about the health of Alex McPherson, which is the most important thing here. And if that's why, gosh, I hope that young man is okay. And I hope he, continues to recover and, win the battle that he's fighting there. But Connor Gibbs being added from Southern Miss, I get it. I like it. But I was a little surprised.
Yeah. 10 of 13 on the season. Most of his issues were in that Troy game to close the year. He missed 2 field goals there and an extra point. Outside of that, he had 1 missed field goal and 1 missed extra point all season. And a guy that he's got experience doing kickoffs. He's got experience with obviously field goals, things like that. I do wonder if this is saying something about Alex McPherson. Just the first thing that I go to, as somebody who has friends and family with chronic illnesses, like I understand what that can do to you.
Yeah.
But if that is the case, if it ends up where he's not going to be as available as we hope next season, having a second option, I think, is never a bad thing. And a guy that has done it in college, granted, he attempted 13 field goals in 2024, and he's attempted 14 in his career. It's not like a huge track record, but it's a guy who's done it for multiple seasons. He's got experience with everything, right? He can kick off as well in case you need to cover that if you don't want your punter doing that or you don't want Towns Magoo doing that. I don't hate it. I'm more so worried that this means something bad about Alex McPherson's health. And obviously,
the human.
If that is
Alex,
the case,
the human, not the kicker. Yeah,
and if that is the case, we want him to get healthy and take all the time he needs. And if this is something where he's able to say, hey, now they're covered, I can, if I need to have a surgery or whatever, he can do whatever he needs to do to get healthy. That's what we want to happen.
Yeah.
But that's my concern when I see we added the kicker after we said we weren't interested is, does that say that Alex is not yet healthy? And if that's the case, let's let him get healthy.
No question. That should be priority number 1 in that room for sure. Or, just get as many legs in there as possible and you hope you figure it out, because they've got to figure that out. Like that production has to be better than it was a year ago. I mean, there are so many close games where if you make a kick, does it win you the game, or does it allow the game to develop in a different way because you're not down multiple scores, you're only down 1 score, and you can play a little less desperate. Like I think that matters. I think that matters for sure.
Yeah.
So what could be next for Auburn in this portal window? It could be some very good things. Some very good things, Lindsay, and we jump into that next, right here on Locked On Auburn. Lindsay, today's show is brought to you by our friends at Rocket Money. We all have 1 million subscriptions, and I promise you have more subscriptions than you actually realize. I downloaded Rocket Money before they were a partner, probably like 2 or 3 years ago, and was blown away by how many subscriptions I had signed up for and not canceled, stuff that we haven't used in months.
Right.
Rocket Money's the answer. You're a big money guy. That's your world. Rocket Money is it's a great resource and a service you need to check out.
Can you imagine paying for subscriptions you don't need?
I mean, everybody's doing it unless you download Rocket Money.
The only critical subscription for me is honestly my subscription to Locked On Auburn and the Bar in Auburn. That's it.
thebarnauburn.com. Yeah. Tell Rocket Money, I use this one. I use that one.
This one's important. Save this one. This one.
Yep. But hey, cancel your unwanted subscriptions and reach your financial goals faster with Rocket Money. Go to rocketmoney.com/locked on today. That's rocketmoney.com/locked on. rocketmoney.com/locked on. Today's show also brought to you by our friends at Alumni Hall. Can you imagine buying Auburn gear and it not being through alumnihall.com or in person at one of the 3 great locations of Alumni Hall in Auburn, Opelika, and Huntsville?
It's so incredibly convenient because, hey, I am in Auburn, Opelika a lot. And when I'm not, alumnihall.com, or if I'm traveling, they're in Huntsville. Like, I really can't imagine a better distribution of cities for Auburn fans than Auburn, Opelika, and Huntsville. I mean, there's literally no better combination than that. More convenient combination.
Sure. Maybe Atlanta. Maybe. And I only say that because that's the city where Locked On Auburn is the most popular. Is Atlanta? I don't know. But still, check it out. alumnihall.com for all of your Auburn gear. And thank you so much, Alumni Hall, for partnering with Locked On Auburn. Thank you for making Locked On Auburn your first listen every single day. Lindsay, this could be a huge week for Auburn because what could be next? Well, to me, it's 2 huge names, one on offense, one on defense. The name that's kind of been in limbo since like Thursday, Eric Singleton Jr., the number 1 receiver in the transfer portal, the former Georgia Tech star wide receiver. Everybody's still expecting him to sign with Auburn. There's still questions on like, okay, why is it taking so long? Whatever. As long as he eventually signs here, I don't care how long it takes. But I think that's one of the big names that people are still looking at.
Yeah, it's getting that potential number 2 receiver behind Cam Coleman, that veteran who's done this in college, I think would be big. The upside here feels like it's KLS upside with multiple years of eligibility. And it's entirely possible that they have learned something from the last couple portal periods. And the fact KLS worked out so well, maybe they've learned this is what we need to find in the portal versus when they tried the first time and they brought in a bunch of dudes that you and I thought were going to be good and weren't.
Yeah.
I like to think they figured it out. I am curious about Eric Singleton. He carried the ball 21 times in 2024. What's up with that?
Yeah, to me, I think it was very much like, this is our dude. He is way better than anybody else we have on the roster offensively. And let's just figure out ways to get him the football. That's very much what this seems like to me. But the interesting thing about that is like, okay, if he's your utility guy, how does that impact Malcolm Simmons? Because I think that's kind of the way I see Malcolm Simmons being used in a larger role next year is kind of what we saw. A lot of stuff close to the line of scrimmage. And then, you maybe send him in motion and kind of just get him like stuff that's an extension of the running game. I'm curious to see how both of those guys exist at the same time, because when you look at where Singleton played at on the field, he played out wide for a good chunk of it. But like you said, he did some stuff where he was, I don't know how PFF charts that, if it's in the backfield or what, but like getting touches. And then he lined up, I think he had over 100 something snaps in the slot. Like he played all over the place.
He had 213 in the slot. He had 3 in the backfield. So they were finding ways to get him the ball on end arounds and reverses and things like that versus a Deebo Samuel type thing where they lined him up as a running back. Right.
Yeah. And so I don't see us doing that as much. I see us using him in different ways. He's a different receiver than KLS. A lot of people are saying like, this is our KLS replacement. I'm like, maybe as far as impact, but not as far as style and role. I think they're different. I think they're different players. I think your KLS replacement is Malcolm Simmons or Perry Thompson taking a step forward, and then you add Eric Singleton.
Yeah, he did a lot of stuff. He was targeted a surprising number of times downfield, like 22 targets downfield. And maybe I don't know if KLS was targeted that much downfield. He was a lot of like intermediate stuff.
What it felt like. Yeah. Right.
Yeah. And so like, this is something where you get a playmaker, you get a dude, like he can do all kind of stuff, right? He can go deep. He can do short passes behind the line of scrimmage. Yeah, perfect 21 to 21 on targets, getting him the ball behind the line and letting him create something. And I'm kind of the philosophy now of guys are going to transfer, and they're going to transfer whether or not you want them to. Get as many dudes as you can, right? Don't say, hey, we have enough, right? Always try to add one more. You can be strategic with it. And I do think this is strategic because he's a guy who's shown he can do a lot of different things, and he can help you out with what you're trying to get done. I like this target.
Yeah. Yeah. And Auburn seems like they've done enough where a lot of national folks are expecting Auburn to win this, and a lot of local folks as well. Just to circle back real quick, KLS was targeted 17 times beyond 20 yards downfield, which is more than I would have guessed.
What's the percentage of targets though? It should be
21%.
Okay, yeah. See, this was Singleton was within like 1% or 2% of each other in every single category. Behind the line of scrimmage, short, medium, deep. They just fed him the ball no matter what. Where I think it's KLS was still going downfield some, but he was used a lot more, I feel like, medium and short than Singleton was just force-fed the ball all the time.
Yeah, everywhere. KLS was targeted once behind the line of scrimmage, and I think that would be very different with Singleton.
Yeah, again, that was, that's the big difference in usage. Most of KLS is short and medium. He is going deep some, but Singleton was just anywhere, and he's a dude that it feels like, based on he's played out wide, he's played in the slot, you could use him in whatever role you needed to in that game, that personnel package, that game plan. And I think that's the advantage. Sometimes I feel like we've gotten a little too quick to pigeonhole guys into he's an outside receiver, he's a slot receiver. Just get you a man who can do both and use him however you need to use him.
And I think Auburn has a few of those guys now. I mean, you got to think the relationship between Malcolm Simmons and assuming Eric Singleton comes here will be interesting, because I think they both can do both as far as slot and out wide. Perry, I think, is more of an outside guy, but we'll see how he's used. And then, does Bryce King take that step forward? I don't know.
Malcolm, 49% of his targets are behind the line of scrimmage.
And I think that number is going to go down some from a percentage standpoint, but I like him used in that way just because he's so explosive. And then you got Horatio Fields, who's coming in, the former Wake Forest wide receiver, who body-wise looks like an outside guy. And he played more of his snaps at wide than he did anywhere else, but he played over 100 snaps, I believe. If you're looking that up, please give me that exact number if you could. But over 100 snaps in the slot as well. So it's kind of a similar thing to Singleton, just not as dramatic as far as, how balanced everything was, but another dude who can do both.
Yeah. 541 out wide, 114 in the slot. Okay. And like 40% of his targets were within 10 yards of line of scrimmage. So he was very much that safety valve kind of guy. He didn't get any targets behind the line, but 42% were within the 10 yards, and then another 33 were medium. So it was a lot of he's lined up outside, but he's getting quick passes. He's getting the ball early in the route tree, and he's probably the hot guy on some of those.
Yeah. Yeah, I've got a few
2 drops all year
on.
That's it. Just 2.
You love that.
Yeah.
You love that. Would you say that's a good Horatio instead of ratio, Horatio? You like that?
I got it. That was good.
Like that?
I legitimately could not stop the laugh coming out. And
I'm sure.
Usually I try to sandbag you a little bit.
That didn't sound forced at all. 100%.
No, 100%. I tried to sandbag you a little bit, but no. 69 targets. Nice usage. 2 drops.
Nice Horatio ratio. I love that.
Wide open fields, baby.
Hey, yeah. I'm going to tell you what I want for Christmas.
Okay.
From an Auburn fan perspective. Next. Right here on Locked On Auburn. Today's show brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. FanDuel's America's #1 sports book. The NFL playoffs are almost here, but it's not too late to get in on the regular season action with FanDuel, because right now new customers can finish the season strong with $250 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. What they've been running is $150 in bonus bets, but they know it's game time now, Lindsay Crosby. $250 in bonus bets if that first $5 bet hits. I'm just going to tell you right now, just bet on Auburn basketball. Bet on them to cover. They keep finding ways to overachieve, and it's so fun. Just visit FanDuel.com. Yes.
You know who the favorite is on FanDuel to win the national championship in men's basketball?
It's got to be us or Duke.
Auburn plus 600. Favorite on FanDuel.
Are the odds to make the Final Four still better than the odds to win the SEC?
Auburn Final Four plus 120. Auburn SEC. I'm getting there.
Plus 120 to make the Final Four. That is
plus
absurd.
135 to win the SEC.
So slightly better, yeah.
Slightly better to make the Final Four than to win the SEC.
They're so good. If you want to go check out our reaction show for them destroying Purdue, go do that. But make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NFL and the Locked On Podcast Network. Thank you so much for making Locked On Auburn your first listen every single day. Lindsay, what I think Auburn fans should want for Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just going to be very clear about this.
Okay.
He's my favorite player in the portal. TJ Searcy, the former Florida Edge. I just think he is so good and has so much upside that Auburn needs to do everything they can to get this guy. Putting him on the field on the opposite side of Keldrick Falk, I think creates a lot of issues if you're trying to defend that. Stacking him with Kieran Crawford. There's just so much that I love about potentially adding a guy like TJ Searcy. I don't know. The list just gets longer and longer the more you think about it. The level of impact he could have on that room. And we all know if you can rush the passer, you're going to probably win football games because your defense, every level just really benefits from that. It's not rocket science. If you make the quarterback uncomfortable, you're probably going to win. But TJ Searcy, man, I just can't get enough of this guy.
I just want to locker Billy Napier. That's fun to do, right? I think that's
okay.
That's reason number one. Probably not the correct reason, but for me, reason number one.
Okay.
Locker Billy Napier.
No, I'm not going to push it. I'm not pushing back on that.
Yeah, but this is something. This could be the last year you have Keldrick Falk. And I mean that not as a transfer. I mean going to the league.
No, he's going to the league after this.
He's going to the league. And
if he doesn't, something went wrong.
Yeah. And so getting guys around him, and I think I'm the guy who's been so big on this about like, you never know who you're going to need to step up in the season because of an injury, something like that. Getting you one more dude, one more guy who's insanely athletic.
That's right.
Insanely long, 6'5", 262. He's got experience inside. He's got experience outside. Like he's moved around a little bit. They've used him on the D-line. They've used him in the box. He played 14 snaps of slot corner somehow, where he walked out to cover a tight end or something like that.
Right.
He is a pass rusher, and you should want him to only rush the passer. But he's moved around a lot, and that is a useful skill to have. And again, just stack dudes. Just stack as many dudes as you can. We don't know how any of these freshmen will do next year with more play time. We think we'll get good things out of Amaris Williams and Riddick and everybody else. Just get you another stud to go into that group and just wreak havoc in the SEC next year. Let's do it.
Yeah. And he's a little larger than Kieran. And so it allows you could put him at strong side end if you needed to. It gives you some positional flexibility there. Kind of create, I think he'd give you a true backup for Kieran and Keldrick and let him and Amaris compete, or, move Keldrick inside more often. Like if you don't find that standout 3 technique in the portal, it just allows you to do a lot. So big fan of that. What do you think Auburn fans should ask for Christmas? What should Auburn Santa bring to the Auburn fan base?
If you ask me, I'm going to say baseball stuff.
You can say, I'm asking you. I'm literally asking you.
I think Auburn baseball doing what they're capable of with the roster that they have. I watched a lot of fall ball.
Sure.
In Plainsman Park this year.
Okay.
One, the renovations look great, but
you look great.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
It's the barn hoodie, the barnauburn.com, folks.
That luscious beard on your face.
Yeah. But they've done a remarkable job at bringing in dudes. hitters, pitchers, athletic guys that are baseball smart. This is one of the more talented rosters that I can remember seeing at Auburn in a while.
Oh, wow.
And a lot of these freshmen could be day one starters because they earned it. They're that good.
Yeah.
You've got to, like, in some of the kind of not long-standing holes, but some of the frustrating holes from recently have been filled. You've got like 4 dudes who can play shortstop. You've got like 3 dudes who can play center field, like tons of options here. You've got like 7 starting caliber infielders for 4 spots. A lot of good, like 4 catchers. You could play 4 different catchers if you wanted in the weekend. So it's a great roster. They've done a lot of work this winter, and I really do think a lot of the issues that you saw last year, especially in the pitching staff, have been fixed.
Yeah.
And this should be a team that gets more swing and miss, walks less guys. They've been really harping on throwing pitches in the zone. I'm hyped for this upcoming baseball season. I got a lot of plans, a lot of stuff we're going to be doing, both content-wise, the Barn Auburn, maybe some stuff on video, just to drop a little tease like that. A lot of stuff coming to cover this baseball season because I think it's going to be a really special one. And I'm hopeful it ends in Omaha.
Yeah. I know what you just teased. I know.
I hope you
I'm
do.
very excited.
Yeah.
I'm very excited about it. Very pumped. So be on the lookout for that. Let us know in the comments, what should Auburn fans want for Christmas? Let us know. Let us know. Lindsay, how can people check out everything you've got going on?
I'm on Twitter at Crosby Baseball. All the Auburn baseball content, thebarnauburn.com. All the Atlanta Braves content, bravestoday.com, and the Braves Today podcast.
Yes. Find my Auburn stuff as well at thebarnauburn.com. Subscribe today. We'd love to have you. Please like this video. Please subscribe. We'll see you next time. This has been Locked On Auburn.